Hello everybody, Haku here with the first part of my read-through for Chapter 2 of Magical Girl Raising Project, or Mahou Shoujo Ikusei Keikaku Restart Limited. We're starting Chapter 2. I maybe want to try to see if I can do it in one video, but I probably can't, so might as well split it in half. Not necessarily in half. I'm going to read as far as I can here, and then we'll... Sorry if I'm blinking a lot. When I was setting up, like right before I started recording, I was messing with my lights to make sure that like the lighting looked okay at least, and I accidentally like flashed the light straight in my eyes and blinded myself. So hopefully that won't impede my reading any. But yeah, either way, I'm going to read through as much of this as possible. Probably at least 20 some pages I'm hoping for. It's a 36-page chapter I can see on the left of the screen, or the right of the screen. I always say it reversed when I'm recording because I know how it works when I'm facing you. But no, right-hand side. So yeah, I can see the page is 36. I'm hoping to read at least 20 some, but we're going to see. The plan's to go for about an hour. Because the way it works is my webcam, if it dies, then if its batteries go dead and it dies, then I lose whatever I was recording. It doesn't just save up to when it died. I lose everything. And I don't want to lose an entire read through because it's something that I can't exactly redo and have it be my first reaction. So that's why I feel like an hour and a half is kind of the safe zone where I'm like, okay, I'm good to record for this long. But any longer than that, and I'm really pushing it. So that's why I try to keep any kind of video down to an hour just to be safe. I don't really like going over an hour. So we'll see where we are like an hour into reading this, and wherever we are, I'll find a good place to stop, and then we can read the rest in a second video later on in the week. Maybe Thursday. I think I'll have some time because I don't know if I'm going to quite be ready for the Haku. I might have to push that back a day or two, so I could maybe use that time to throw this in on Thursday, the second part. But either way, let's get into reading. We had Chapter 2. I liked Chapter 1, but it was really just introducing us to one group of characters, and that was, 7 characters plus Coco. And we saw the Rabbit Girl and the Suzaku Girl is what I've been calling her. I believe they were 2 of the 3 that was with the van group, but I'm thinking either we'll develop more of the 7 characters we've met, or maybe Chapter 2 will just totally focus on a different group. And I just got a notification for a comment earlier that, again, don't tell me any of this stuff if it's spoilers, but I don't really think this was a spoiler. But they were like, oh, the 24-hour countdown at the end of the last one was part of why the volume is called Limited. So I am assuming this is going to be one of those things like I mentioned in Chapter 1 where all the events happen just within one day. So yeah, I guess let's go ahead and start reading Chapter 2. Maybe we'll learn some new stuff. Maybe we'll see a different group of characters. Because if we just met, let's count just that group. Let's not count the Rabbit and the Suzaku Girl, because we haven't really met them yet. So we've met 7 characters. We already know Pithy and Ripple. They were in the character thing, so they'll probably be here eventually. So that means there's 7 more we need to learn about. But we're starting Chapter 2, Drowning in Love and Hearts, and from the perspective of 7753. From a professional hold on, let me check my, okay, yeah, everything's good. From a professional baseball player that repeatedly swung ball after ball being thrown at him, to a private detective discovering the criminals and suppressing thugs in a shootout. Such activities were romantic and popular, but could only be enjoyed in the realm of fiction. Anyone who was engaged in those actual jobs would find their dreams shattered, although such stories don't tend to leak out. Some magical girls didn't want to end their stories on anything other than a fantastic success. Magical girls like 7753, pronounced Nanako-san. That's creative. That's really creative. Okay, so Nanako-san, who scout for the mental requirements of others, had plenty of chances to meet magical girls who only wanted to pursue that romantic dream, whether it be demon lords, evil spirits, mad scientists, or otherworldly invaders. Many magical girls dreamed of fighting those kinds of unknown enemies, and she'd always send them out to train. Her seriousness was far more than how a baseball player would try to develop their own techniques. Nevertheless, when they met Nanako-san, their fingers ran short. For example, there was a magical girl who trained because she believed that someday a crisis will befall the Earth. In her training area, there was a piece of crushed boulders rolling. Looking into the sparkling eyes of those magical girls, all she could say is, "When the world's in danger, there will be strong magical girls sent ahead. It's not your turn yet," or "Before worrying about the world, worry about yourself." None of them were particularly good to hear for the magical girl in question, so all Nanako-san could do was watch them train with a smile. Even after parting ways, she never really dared to look her in the face. Nanako-san wondered if even now that girl was dreaming that someday there'd be a crisis in the world where I would be needed, as she continued to destroy rocks. There were also magical girls whose reasons were to seek the strongest fighter. For them, fighting itself was the reason, whether for justice or evil. The only problem was their ideological impurities. One of those girls lightly touched the big tree's trunk, shaking the other... Was there some kind of bug? Oh, sorry. I keep seeing some kind of like tiny little bug fly around, some kind of gnat or something. Shaking the other side of the trunk that she touched, it cracked and leaves scattered. Nanako-san thought that this looked like something she's read in a manga before, but she didn't say it. All she could think about was how natural destruction shouldn't be performed. "Look at how far I've come. My competence has reached far beyond what a normal magical girl can do." "Huh? Master, give me a chance. Give me a chance to use my power." "Huh?" She escalated quickly. She only prayed to find a place where she could test out her power. Once a college student also said, "Magic is an uncertain kind of technology. Let me study it, research it, and control it." Another revolutionary once asked her, "We have the power beyond humanity's science. We should use this to supervise them. We can't let mere humans selfishly try to govern themselves." A country official also said, "In order to prevent the fall of my country, the power of a magical girl is indispensable. They are an absolute security necessity." So, I kind of like this because we don't know what's up with the world of magic, like how they can just... Who actually lives there? Are there non-humans that made the magical girls magical? But they can make magical girls what they are, but they all have to stay secret, you know? None of them use their powers for these kinds of things, like protecting countries or whatever. Like, none of them are allowed to really make it known to the world that magical girls really do exist in that way. So it is pretty interesting to note that it's kind of confusing what the land of magic actually is at this point. One girl once claimed, "We need to extend past our districts that we're in charge of, and be more active in defending the human world. If magical girls don't seriously start to do their jobs, then more tragedies will happen." That girl proceeded to stop rebellions and crush corrupt governments throughout the Middle East. After that, she continuously defeated rogue magical girls one after another, and people started calling her this threatening nickname, the Magical Girl Hunter. Of course, Snow White. And I feel like some of the ones before, like the one that was only interested in fighting, could have been a reference to Melville, because that was kind of Melville's backstory, but still. Nanako-san already understood how the land of magic deals with her. They only sent her problem children who were drowned with dreams and power. Then, after about a week to maybe 6 months, they'll be reassigned. Like a conveyor belt, they kept sending her magical girl after magical girl. Okay, so Nanako-san gets sent these problem magical girls to train them in how to be good magical girls. It's mandatory to submit reports about those girls. Using Nanako-san's magical skills, she was able to gain information on these girls and draft reports on them, submitting it to the land of magic. Nanako-san's magical skill is visualizing information. Even though it sounds quite lofty, it really wasn't. It was actually quite cheap and easy to obtain these results. She had magical goggles that she could look through. Displayed on them were various pieces of data that she could find out. Basically, it was like the status screen you'd find in RPGs. When she looks at an object through her goggles, data will immediately be displayed on screen, accompanied by a beep 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 noise. Beep 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 beep. from rough parameters such as intelligence, physical abilities, and combat strength to detailed parameters like strength, grip strength, pinching force, finger strength, and nail hardness, just by adjusting the dials. Almost an infinite amount of information could be obtained. The information she obtained wasn't limited to things that can be quantified, hobbies or preferences, and even their magical skill can be obtained. Everything on an individual can be covered. However, the numerical data was represented by a number of heart symbols. The non-numerical one would often be given with the toneless "she likes to," "she uses," "she likes." It's clearly a strange magical girl-ish magical skill. So I'm assuming she's the one that in all the character books or volumes or whatever, when you see all the stats on all the characters, I'm assuming that's all of her notes on them. The Land of Magic found it convenient to use Nanako-san's magical skill to filter out any rogue magical girls. No matter what they do, they couldn't fool Nanako-san's magic. If she exposed any hidden problem children, then the Land of Magic will take care of them. Most of them were unable to hide themselves. Nanako-san took care of her given duties. If the Land of Magic requested her to do that kind of work, she'll do it. It's not that she hasn't thought of any other ways of using her magical skill. If there were any hidden criminals in a big city, she could also catch them. If she goes to a country where a terrorist was supposed to live, she can easily find the terrorist that was living amongst the innocents. That was surely a meaningful way of using her magical skill, but the Land of Magic didn't think so. If the Land of Magic wanted to use her magical skill to find problem children, she'll follow those orders. Kotori Nanaya, the magical girl Nanako-san, has been a magical girl for 7 years now. She was a girl full of dreams and hope who became a veteran magical girl. Compared to when she was full of dreams and hope, now she knew how the world worked. She also wasn't drowning in strength. There was a magical girl stronger than Nanako-san that was sent over to the mountains. Because they determined the limits of their strength, the Land of Magic would assign them the best way to use it. The Land of Magic isn't exactly in desperate need of money. However, they needed all the money they could get. It's actually quite sad. Magical girls are volunteers who work with no pay or rewards, and if you're dissatisfied, you can actually quit, and some people have, directly. There were rumors that some magical girls received welfare protection so they could continue being magical girls. Some of those rumors are probably true. It's like she said before, it's not uncommon for the Land of Magic to spend money on rather controversial things like this. In order to keep certain people from wanting to leave, they bait them using one thing they'd want, a salary. Their targets were usually people who were administering a certain area, scouts who were looking for potential magical girls, their abilities, skills, talent, and magic. For a variety of reasons, the Land of Magic hoped that some of them would work their hardest. And again, that makes a lot of sense. If somebody shows up with a really, really good magical skill, it would make sense that the Land of Magic would want to pay them and sort of pamper them to make sure they stayed a magical girl and wouldn't want to turn on them or quit. Okay? Nanako-san was one of them. As a magical girl working in the Human Resources Division, she regularly received her salary from the Land of Magic. It's said to be an honor, and that it helps narrow down the selections. If she had an occupation other than a magical girl, even if she quits being a magical girl, she could support herself using that job. Compared to her role as a professional magical girl, though, there was no running way. Okay, page break, let me grab a sip of water. And we are at page 5 now. Players of Go and Shogi, singers, actors, entertainers, manga artists, novelists, professional athlete. There were many jobs where, if you're frustrated, you won't have your talents wasted. Being a magical girl was one of them, but only if you don't quit. Even shogi players, manga artists, and novelists still keep some experience if they quit their jobs. If a magical girl quits, nothing's left. Their memories would be all erased. There would really be nothing left. Just thrown out to the road as a normal human being with 0 skill, 0 experience, and 0 work history. Nanako-san was thinking about it again. It always crept into her mind. I can't be anything other than a magical girl. Magical girls, aiming for strength, for dreams, and for the future, were truly beautiful. It was something most girls had a longing for, not once or twice. However, now she longed for that administration to stop. Only someone who hasn't had experience with something can possibly long for it. There's actually no need to follow the same path of life. Nanako-san wasn't living in a dream anymore, she was living in reality. Being a professional magical girl wasn't related to its welfare benefits. There's very little income that comes with it. Nanako-san kept as much restraint as possible, trying not to waste anything, slowly accumulating her savings from her paydays, until finally she saved up 10 million yen. There was a certain sense of satisfaction that filled her body, quietly crying as she saw the number of cash she had. She heard a rumor that there was a rogue magical girl that did horrible things after accumulating loads of her profits, but Nanako-san won't cross that bridge. It'd be horrible if that caused her to be unemployed. That's why Nanako-san will slowly save up, bit by bit. Little by little, she was able to save up this much. However, it's still not enough. She has a long life ahead, and if she wanted to quit being a magical girl, even the house she's lived in right now was more than 30 years old. If she thinks about rebuilding, renovating, or improving it, then 10 million yen will all go down the drain. Okay, two thoughts. First, I think 10 million yen's like $100,000, give or take. It's not exactly that, but it's around that area, I think. And secondly, I like this character in that Nanako is she doesn't dream of being a magical girl anymore because she's living it. And she knows now that it's not this thing that all these girls expect it to be, this glamorous save the world lifestyle. It's just a normal job to her, and because it's just a normal job to her, that kind of, I don't know, that is the difference that makes her a little bit jaded, I'd say. But either way, let's keep reading. A few years ago, her parents had passed away. They'd only left behind some money they saved as well as some stocks. They only owned one house. Nanako-san hasn't seen any other relatives as well. The time where her parents passed away was a turbulent period in her life. First of all, her boss was demoted. Other than her parents, the only other person she could rely on was her boss. She was an I-can-do-it kind of girl, telling her, if you ever have a problem, don't hesitate to ask. But due to some other subordinates' mistakes, Nanako-san couldn't do anything about the demotion. Over years, she'd taken care of Nanako-san, but now Nanako-san couldn't even say hello to her. And soon a successor was appointed. Her successor was somewhat hard to reach. Selecting a successor wasn't dependent on the predecessor, and there were rumors that she was a successful person in life, and there was some backlash due to how her family apparently made some connection with magical girls. So it does seem like she's rather hard to reach. If Nanako-san used her magical skills, she might be able to find out her true identity, so she usually takes her goggles off when she's in front of her boss. Naturally, if she used it to her boss, it'd just be rude. Even if it's not her boss, looking at people's data without permission is just extremely bad manners. When Nanako-san removed her goggles in front of her new boss, it seems that her boss got curious. "Let me take care of that," she asked, taking the goggles from her. Even though Nanako-san explained many times that it would be hard for her to work without them, her boss just continued on without listening, and after several days Nanako-san got her goggles back in a package. "I've improved your goggles. Any information you get will now be directly transmitted to me. There's no need for you to write any more reports," said a note attached to it, which she rolled up in the trash. If she detransformed without her goggles, the goggles would still remain, and although they were magical goggles, somehow her boss was able to be remodeled and taught her a variety of other things, but more than that, she was surprised. More than she was surprised, Nanako-san was angry. Okay, this is interesting. So I'm thinking the new boss could actually be Fleur, because A, they said her family had connection with magical girls, and that was something that was true. Her grandfather was using, her grandfather had already had connections because he was using, Rionetta, right? As a worker. Or at least getting Rionetta to run errands. So, there was that. But also the connections that Fleur has as a magical girl. So it makes sense that perhaps she's the new boss. And if she took the goggles and had them improved, it makes sense that she just took them to Shadowgale and got Shadowgale to change them, because that's again, literally your power. And also, again, Shadow Gale, this is another, Nanako-san's power is cool, but it's also somewhat pointless, because you would think Shadow Gale can make those magical goggles out of normal glasses and random stuff she attaches to them, but because science, because none of it makes any sense, not even to Shadow Gale. But even still. So, either way, it can be said that the root of Nanako-san's magical skill is in her goggles, and her boss forcibly took them and remodeled them without her knowing, without even apologizing. Now, Nanako-san knew what kind of person she was, a selfish rationalist. Even though she didn't see that information through her goggles, she was convinced that this was definitely the impression her boss gave her. She couldn't count on her as much as her former boss. Did she really expect anyone to be able to replace her? At that time, she was mourning. She was worried sick that she was stuck with a horrible boss. But soon as the days passed, spring became summer, summer became fall. As a human, she lived on her cash while living without excess. It's actually pretty nice to work without writing any reports, thought Nanako-san. Nanako-san tends to retrieve a lot of information at a time, which means it takes a long time to write up a report. Thanks to her goggles being remodeled, she actually had time to relax. In addition to that, her pitiful salary that she was fated to have until the day she dies had actually been given a raise by 3%. It seems her boss did express her gratitude. Nanako-san felt like she's actually being treated as an excellent staff member working under her elite superiors. The evening where she got told of her salary raise, she drank up 3 glasses of foreign black and tan beer she bought at the local lottery building. Unlike Japanese standards, the shape of foreign beer bottles were quite interesting. It's been a long time since she's had the taste of alcohol and cider. Compared to magical girls, humans were weakened by alcohol. A person's lifestyle was connected to their state of mind, and Nanako-san was no different. She's cleaning her room, even to the smallest of nooks and crannies, weeding the gardens without using herbicide, and even planning to have a small garden where she could plant vegetables. Thus, Nanako-san began to live according to how she wanted to, being able to smile as she goes on business trips when before she always seemed to be tired beyond belief, even until now. Since she's woken up, Nanako-san was staring at her unfamiliar ceiling, remembering that she'd been staying at a hotel. She was on a long business trip. Someone else was going to do her cleaning and cooking. Even her transportation costs and meal expenses had been taken care of. Her bathroom was a small room that she'd often hit her head whenever she took a bath. But staying in this hotel, just alone by herself, genuinely made her happy. Most magical girls have their main activities at night time. Sleeping twice, maybe 3 times made her happy. Until she woke up late in the evening. After Kotorin and Aya awoke, she soon washed her face. Without doing that, she wouldn't be able to stay awake. From her former boss, she had received a magical facial cleaner, and using that, she was able to wash off any form of oiliness in her skin. With no one around, she had an evening buffet of salad and sausages while reading the news. The lettuce had a comfortable, crunchy texture, the bread was filled with apricot jam, and her throat was constantly refreshed with warm milk. Somehow, she was even able to watch TV, the late-night news show. On the screen there were some high school girls with boisterous smiles. She thought they looked quite pretty. If she wasn't a magical girl, she might have had a youth like they did. She always thought of herself as a magical girl. Her human life always came second to her. She never really thought of anything girls would normally do or how she could polish her own body. She thought that those things were always unimportant to her. When she looked at her own face in the mirror, she thought that she might have been too old for her age. Gold can shine beautifully without polish, but iron always had to be polished in order to shine. Since she came all the way to B City, she's made an appointment in the local beauty salon. It was a famous store that she found out in the local magazine. She's always told herself that this business trip was a good thing until the very end. I wasn't wrong, was I? This wasn't a waste of time. These were necessary expenses. Balancing your human life and your magical girl life is the key to living a fulfilling life, so I should do that. It's true. If she always stayed in her magical girl form, she could cut down on her budget. She wouldn't need to pay for food, for example. In fact, when she first transformed, that's how she saved up money. However, just because she was Just because she was always constantly beautiful due to being a magical girl, she can't just ignore her human form's grooming. The weight of her human form will increase with age, as an adult she was socially required to care for herself in order to go out and shop. When Kotori got home, she checked her schedule book. Earlier, she's never had such a fancy item. When the book had a pretty luxurious leather cover, she probably couldn't have had this if it weren't for the raise she got. She never thought she'd feel so good about getting a raise. She felt like her world had changed completely. Seniority, regular salary raises, lifetime employments, they're pretty human things to feel about, thought Kotori. Okay? Today, she was supposed to meet up with a magical girl who was undergoing training. Since that's at midnight, she can spare some time to go to the beauty salon in the afternoon. Until then, she'll have to think of what she wants to do. While she did that, her magical girl phone rang. Her boss. It was unusual for her to call. She usually texts. Kotori transformed into Nanako-san and took out her magical phone. Her voice after her transformation was different from the voice before. She didn't actually switch her work phone. She couldn't escape her responsibilities. It was rather annoying to have to do magical girl business manners in a place like this. Yes, this is Nanako-san. This is urgent. Any investigators coming to B City. Okay. Nanako-san heard the tension in her voice. B City was where Nanako-san was traveling right now. What did she say on the phone? An investigator. An investigator who? No, I said an investigator is coming to B City. They're investigating a magical girl-related crime in the area. Ah, I see. I've received information that the criminals are still at large in B City. That's why the investigation team is headed there. They've reported that the enemy apparently has more people with them than expected. Okay, so this is, again, Coco is the bad guy, like I was saying. So, Coco's the bad guy. The two that were after them were part of the investigation team. And the 7 that are being dragged into this by Coco don't know that they're the bad guys. The magical phone on her hand felt somewhat heavier. Okay, but what does that mean? It seems that death, hold on, we're at page 10 for those of you following along. It seems that death has also come to light. There's been a request sent for any surrounding magical girls to support them. Since you're on a business trip there, you're also included. You'd rather be with them than to be alone. You should take advantage of your luck in being in the right place at the right time. Luck? She was in the wrong place at the wrong time. So you're telling me to get my hands on something this dangerous? You won't be able to leave the city anyway. The Foreign Affairs Division has built a barrier around the city to strengthen their request. I'm sorry. I'm sorry? They don't want the criminals to leave the city. However, magical girls inside the city won't realize anything's changed. The barrier prevents anything magical from passing through. Even if you de-transform, it doesn't make exceptions. That's unreasonable. At any rate, you're trapped. Rather than staying alone, it's much safer to join with the professional investigators. Besides, if you stay on your own, the investigation team might mistake you for collaborating with the criminals and probably go after you as well. So see, this is how the it's a survival game, kind of, but now it's group versus group. It's all of them trapped in an area together. But we have the investigation team, we have the 7 criminals with Coco, we have these other characters, so that's 3 plus 7, that means there's 6 more in there somewhere. One of those 6 is Nanako-san, and somewhere within the other 5, I'm assuming somehow Pithy is going to be trapped in this barrier for some reason, and somehow Ripple will be trapped in here and have to survive. Even though I'm assuming, because Ripple doesn't like working with the Land of Magic, I'm assuming that Ripple is going to be kind of a neutral independent party during this that doesn't want anything to do with the investigation team, but also doesn't want anything to do with the criminals, obviously. Okay. No, but I'm going to send you a text for details. I don't have much time. Please report in. I know you might not like it, but I don't want you going it alone. Please stay safe. That last word, it felt like it was just added in, probably because she heard how much of a victim Nanako-san sounded like. Her daily life is disintegrated. For a while, thinking about something other than herself, she checked her text. The text from her boss had arrived. She opened it. She ran her eyes over the contents. The meeting place was the hotel in front of a train station. The meeting time is soon. They urged her to come without bringing attention that she's a magical girl. Guess I'll have to cancel my beauty salon reservation, she thought vaguely. Nanako-san decided to walk around the streets before meeting up. When she got out, the sky was dark and cloudy. The dark gray skies endlessly continued to the edge of the horizon. With the amount of lighting here, the indoors is actually brighter than the outdoors. It may be evening, but it's getting close to nighttime. Seems to be symbolizing what lies ahead in the future. From the hotel she's staying in, it should be a 5-minute walk to the nearest intersection. After that, she'd already be out of the town right around the corner. The air didn't look so good. Its coldness stained her throat. What an odd countryside. There were many passengers scrambling about in the train station. There were students, salarymen, various men and women, walking around wearing coats without minding each other. All of them stopped at a red light, and once the light turned green they moved again in unison. Kotori also moved with them, but just before she crossed the road she seems to have hit an invisible wall. She didn't just slam into a simple hard wall. As soon as she touched it she collapsed. She couldn't shout even if she wanted to. Her head felt numb from the back. Her vision somehow became stained with a reddish tint before returning again. She hugged herself with both arms. She was struck by an intense dizziness. She couldn't breathe. She wasn't even sure if she was on the ground. Earlier she'd been walking around the corner of the pedestrian crossing. Although it was impossible for her to be attacked from behind, she was getting some suspicious looks from the surrounding passerbys. She was rolling, she was crawling, struggling to return to the sidewalk. She heard people's voices asking if she was okay, to which she weakly waved and smiled at them. Finally she used the trees in the street to support herself standing up. She felt something cold at the edge of her mouth. She realized she'd been drooling and wiped it off with her hand, then took out a handkerchief to wipe it off with as well. Was this the barrier? Even though ordinary people are passing through it, Nanako-san couldn't go any further. If there was anything that was magical, she heard it would be stopped, but she didn't expect to endure this much damage. Even if she touched it, she was immediately paralyzed. If I didn't know anything, then if I crashed into the barrier with a car or train... Nanako-san shuddered as she thought of the possibility. She gave up and went back. The green light of the pedestrian crossing already flashing, Kotori ran in a hurry. She took out her magical phone. She checked the time. Still a bit of time before the meeting. She slid the screen with her finger, checking the map screen, looking for the nearby children's park, and headed that way. She sat on the bench, opened her mail, and checked the ones that were sent from her boss. On the text there were details written about the criminal. Although these details were the criminal's name, although these were details, the criminal's name or affiliation was still unclear. It's as if they were a ghost. According to this, their weapon of choice to kill their victims seems to be some kind of bladed weapon. Is this what the investigation team will try to find out? The victim seems to be a stakeholder from the land of magic, a whistleblower, a very important person related to some administrator. Speaking of rumors of bribery, a magical girl that's accumulated a wide variety of land of magic items. Well, the text wrote it bluntly. Was this information that really needed to be told? At the same time, it's a scary thought to think the magical city's magical girls are continuing their activities without knowing that they might be the next victims. How many magical girls have died in their posts before, she wondered. Okay, so I know I've already said, I think this is Ripple, I think that's Ripple 1,000 times to the point where it might be annoying. But this specific criminal, maybe Coco is with Ripple, or maybe she's being blamed for Ripple's crimes. But perhaps that's Ripple that actually killed the person, because a lot of things make that clear. They don't seem to have any clear affiliation. They use a bladed weapon. We know that Ripple has a katana and also has, does she still have the halberd, or did she give that to Snow White? I don't remember which of them have the halberd right now. But we do know that Ripple has a lot of different magical items from the first game in Unmarked that she survived. Because I don't remember how the split of items went, but her and Snow White split those items up somehow. So she might have the bag, and she might also have the halberd. So it does make sense that perhaps this criminal is maybe Ripple, and perhaps the person she killed, she had a reason for killing them, whoever this whistleblower was. So we'll see what happens. However, this information was only the beginning. When she slid the pages, she found sections labeled Infiltration Information, Double Agent, Undercover Work. As they passed through her eyes, her magical phone went to sleep mode. Katori placed her magical phone on her tote bag, slung it over her shoulder, and stood up, her skirt flapping in the wind. She purchased a sugar-free coffee from the vending machine and sat back down on the bench. There was an old man fishing nearby. It must have been his way of life. From the bottom of her heart, Katori felt envious of him. Criminal investigation, more specifically criminal capture. She's never been involved in something like this. Her boss had thought she was fit for this, taking advantage of her subordinate and being in the right place at the right time. She got the impression that her boss wasn't very empathetic of human emotions. Guess she was right. She should have known that it was too good to be true, that her work had decreased while her salary had increased. Even if she regretted it, it was already too late. Her competent boss asking for her subordinate to be just as competent. In terms of violence, Nanako-san had only had experience in arbitrating a fight, so what on earth did she expect her to do? Guess she's not a competent boss after all. She was an incompetent boss who misunderstood Nanako-san's ability. If she were competent, she would have understood the limits of her subordinates. She should have said something like, "Since there's probably going to be a firefight in B-City, you should find somewhere safe as soon as possible." She thought of accursed things for her boss, but she couldn't disobey a direct order. Salarymen magical girls have a hard life. She drank her coffee, once again looking at her magical phone. In the field, it seems as if forcibly sharing secrets with your friends would only drag them into the same hole you're in, so to speak. Originally, Kotori didn't know anything about this. The coffee that she drank has reached her stomach. The information wasn't just simply stated. Anyone who read this would know highly detailed information, complete with explanations attached to it. Okay. There was also a case of a magical girl killed at home before she transformed. The magical girl's location was strictly managed. You can't just simply come to a land of magic citizen. So, to know a magical girl's real identity, that was another layer entirely. And it seemed like this had also been very organized. Maybe it was by some higher-up, a setup to get rid of someone that was inconveniencing some higher-up, or some higher group. Since they'd look suspicious, almost every single division is offering cooperation for this investigation. Kotori was supposed to be the representative of the Human Resources Division. The one that set the barrier was also the Foreign Affairs Division. They may have been trying to tell the investigation team that they have nothing to do with the crime by making this alibi. There's a possibility of the culprit escaping. They might want to kill this criminal to seal their lips. Okay? All of those details were clearly explained in the text. Kotori continued to scroll downward. Okay. Although there was no intention at all, Kotori wanted the simple life of an increased salary and a better life, like a normal person would. She didn't want to get involved with interdivisional politics, blackmail, assassination, and backstabbing. That was suicidal. Right now, there are 3 investigators in B-City from the Examination Division. Hana Gekkokujo and Mana. Therefore, someone assigned from outside their division, Malpam. Hana Gekkokujo and Mana were investigation and scouting specialists. Malpam belonged to the Land of Magic's Foreign Affairs Division. The Foreign Affairs Division has deemed it necessary to send her in order to crush the culprit's possibility of escaping, and as such, they've temporarily reassigned her from military staff to this investigation team. In addition to that, with Nanako-san coming in from the Human Resources Division, this hybrid team was complete. However, since the representative from the Foreign Affairs Division comes from their military staff, everyone was a bit restless. What she read earlier about foreign affairs making sure people's lips are sealed suddenly became a very real possibility. Perhaps Nanako-san was also a magical girl with that kind of role. Even if she was forced to cooperate, she was still quite doubtful. Someone who joined the team later couldn't possibly be welcomed. Let's at least try not to be suspicious, she decided to herself as she slid toward the next page. The one cooperating with this culprit is a mascot character by the name of Toko, a crooked character. Oh, have I been saying Coco this whole time, but the fairy's name is Toko? Guess so. A crooked character. The latest model of magical phones had a higher sensitivity than before, complete with a tool to scout for magical potential, but there was also a secret function that only a few parties knew about. Whenever this is used, an information record is sent back to the Land of Magic's Examination Division. Basically, the Land of Magic monitors the usage of these magical phones closely. The fact that the monitoring system was forced means that active magical girls probably felt it once or twice. It would be bad if a rogue ever passes through this filter. So, they've been using this to keep the number down to a consistent ratio. In the current situation, it wouldn't be strange to use this kind of device. When they say it's a top-secret monitoring device, Kotori never remembered anything about secret policies or snitches and spies watching her every move, but having some kind of monitoring system was better than letting people do whatever they want. Okay. This was how they found Toko. This mascot character has long been in the business of slave trafficking, according to some rather harsh rumors. Apparently she was a shrewd scout. From her description, although she was a skilled person, her love for magical girls was thin. As she gradually created new magical girls, she taught the ones with high skills. As for the ones that didn't match her standards, nobody knew what she did with them, but she would consider them none of her responsibility and just throw them away. Even though they've tried to consult the girls that Toko's chosen, they told them that she's treated them coldly, they had a lack of spirit, saying that she told them that if you're as competent as I think, you wouldn't worry about small problems. Even now, Toko has raised several excellent magical girls. Even though they may be excellent in terms of capabilities, in terms of their mental state and personality, well, that's the issue, isn't it? It was because of those reasons that the new experimental magical phones were distributed with priority. Toko used these new phones and, of course, was discovered by the authorities. During the time of the crime, Toko had been exposed at the crime scene. The victim was murdered with some large-bladed weapon, and a mascot wouldn't have the ability to wield something like that. Toko may have used the magical phone, but the perpetrator was someone else. Probably someone that Toko had raised herself, being a master of raising the potential of magical girls, secretly training them. A magical girl specialized in assassination. Though, they could be going about this the wrong way, and maybe the person that was murdered was the one actually working with Toko, and that's why Ripple was the one that killed them. That could be it. And that could be why she could have been referring to Ripple as the evil witch, but now the investigation team is also kind of a target that she's trying to escape from. Judging by the commonness of the victims and Toko's position, we can conclude Toko wasn't the one pulling the strings. Those who lost their lives to Toko probably belonged to a different faction. That's why the higher-ups in the Land of Magic desperately want to know which division is involved. And now it seems Nanako-san was also forced to cooperate with the investigation team. Kotori tilted her canned coffee. A few drops of coffee dripped down into her tongue, and after that no drops appeared, even if she shook it. She sighed, throwing the empty can to the trash next to the vending machine. But when she threw it, she misfired as it rolled down the pavement, causing her to stand up and stand up after sighing again, picking up the empty can and properly throwing it away. Kotori peeked into the nearby fisherman's bucket just before she left. There was no catch in the bucket, just water. Kotori sighed a third time. The fisherman glared at Kotori. Kotori grabbed the collar of her coat. In a panic, she left the park. The meeting place was a room in a karaoke bar. It was a famous karaoke chain that had a store in Kotori's hometown. However, both this shop and its parking lot were smaller than the one in Kotori's hometown. It was old, the automatic door opened and closed awkwardly, as if it were trying its best to catch up. Due to the rust, the ground was a little dirty. Was the store just not well maintained? She did see the store from the outside, so it wasn't that strange. She felt bad about the store clerk, though of course she didn't let that show. She asked for the 12th room, and the clerk pointed her there. She kept going left and right across the aisles filled with songs. So far so good. There seemed to be more customers than she thought. Nanako-san stopped on the door labeled 12. Before she entered the room, she looked at her palm. It was covered in sweat. She wiped it off with her handkerchief. I'm going to grab a sip of water before we get into what's going on inside. The reason her palms were wet with sweat wasn't because she was wearing a coat indoors. It's because she was nervous. She held her bag on her shoulders. After clearing her throat, she looked twice. There was a faded sound from the inside. "Come in. Pardon me." She opened the door. The warm air from the inside caressed her face. Everyone's line of sight was concentrated on her. Katori felt taken aback. There were 4 magical girls. Wait, 4? She was confused. Why was there one more than she was informed? Also, it seems everyone was already transformed. Oh, okay. Now we've got a, So it wasn't Ripple. So Ripple is with the infiltration team now. Okay, so I was wrong. There isn't this, There isn't the Suzaku girl. So I guess the one with transformed, they said had a black coat and black cap, so maybe that's her human form that had the black coat and cap. Because none of these 4 seem to. So we have Malpam, who I've already been spoiled that that's the succubus girl's name, but that's the only one who I know the name of beforehand other than Ripple. So we have Malpam, who's the succubus girl, and Pithy, of course, I know about. We have the rabbit girl, who, I guess the rabbit girl and the other girl, one of those was Hane and one was Mane, something like that. I'll catch up to it as we get to meet them. We've only heard their name once. Oh, no, the black cap was maybe the, Oh no, they said the black cap, she looked like some kind of old gangster or something. I was going to say the witch's cap. But no, that marking on her head, I think that's the witch girl, or the sorceress mage-looking girl that has the, little jacket on over. And it seems like she's wearing human clothes, not transformed clothes. So that's odd. But we have the girl with the glasses, we have the rabbit girl, we have Ripple, and we have Malpam. Okay. A girl with a yukata and rabbit ears. A girl with a black dress coat. On her head were 2 small horns. Both of them had the age and appearance of early teens. That sounds about the right age for a magical girl's look. Another magical girl stuck out from all the rest. A ninja-style magical girl. Her left eye had a scar of a sword cut. Also, from the elbow below, her left arm sleeve was waving in the wind. Both her arm and her eye, the remaining eye on her right, caught Katori with a sharp look. Katori looked away. She felt a chilling cold from her stomach. This magical girl smelled of violence. And another one. There was no fear from... One of the few children of Clanberry we know that are left. And another one. There was no fear from her, but there was a sense of incompatibility. She looked about the same age as the others, in her mid-teens, but something was different. She was wearing non-rimmed glasses, her hair was casually tied back. She didn't have a costume, unless the casual clothes she's wearing was her costume. The navy-colored gray cardigans on a bright green tunic, beige-colored cotton pants, and on the sofa's armrest there was a folded brown coat, and she was wearing a foreign brand sneaker that Katori's never seen before. On her cheeks were faint traces of freckles. She could feel the strength of her willpower emanating from her curled eyebrows. Her face was irritated. The glasses girl stared at Katori so much that there were wrinkles between her forehead. So, they sent an amateur who doesn't even know the ABCs of investigating to vandalize our work. All right, let's settle down. The rabbit girl raised her hand to intervene. She's here to help us. You shouldn't be too harsh. The girl stood up and bowed her head, the bunny ears waving up and down as her head bowed. Those ears looked so cute that Katori wanted to touch them. You're Nanako-san, right? I'm Hana Gekukujo. Oh, yes, but please, just Nanako-san is fine. She said Nanako-san, right? Yes, but please, just Nanako-san is fine. Okay. So Hana is the rabbit. Hurriedly, Katori put down her head, raising it again. Hana opened her palms and pointed to another person. The one with the glasses is our group leader, Mana, who said I'm wearing glasses. Ignoring Mana, Hana continued on. That one is just like you, cooperating with us for the time being, Malpam. The dress coat girl with the tiny horns bowed her head. "A pleasure to meet you," she said. So this was Malpam. Mao was a Japanese word meaning demon, and from the look of it, she certainly does look like one. A black dress coat. From the hem of the coat, there was something slithering inside, moving around. It looks like a demon's tail. Her lips were redder than blood, and her hair was blacker than darkness. And with that expression, the only thing that comes to mind is the image of a demon lord. Yet her smile was more reliable and filled with kindness. Her sleepy eyelids reminded her of Buddha instead of Satan. Okay? Sorry, I lost my place. "And that's Ripple." The armless ninja looked up with an expressionless face. Ripple. Katori's heard of her name somewhere before, but she couldn't remember. Where's she seen that name before? She didn't even see her name when she was looking up the investigation team. Where have I seen your name before, thought Katori hard. It was a name she seen recently. Felt like it was a pretty important name too, but she forgot. Katori heard Mana murmur, "This is way too leisurely." "How long are you going to stand there? We're running out of time." "Oh right, sorry. Was there a seat somewhere in this karaoke room?" She didn't want to ask. There were documents spread out across the table, surrounded by sofas. On the far left side was Mana, next to her was Hana. There was a gap after that, followed by Ripple. Malpam sat by herself, sitting properly on the right side. Ripple stood up, offering a seat to Katori. Even now, Katori appreciated any small kindness. Katori apologized inside her heart for thinking that Ripple looked like a violence expert as she sat down on the sofa. "Take off your coat first." "Yes, ma'am." Just like Mana said, Katori took off her coat. There was a coat hanger on the side of the entrance. If she wanted to use it, Ripple would have to stand up again. Katori just silently placed her coat on the back of the chair. "Right, now transform." "Yes, ma'am." Katori transformed into Nanako-san. Since she's never been by others while transforming before, she felt a little embarrassed. She removed her goggles and placed them on the table. "All right then. Well, since one of us is late, I'm going to have to explain again." From her words, Nanako-san could hear irritation endlessly spewing out. Nanako-san tried to be as gentle as she could. "Magical girls should stay transformed permanently right now. Do you want to catch the assassin?" Mana took a slight glance at Malpam. Malpam tilted her head and smiled. Mana just sighed. "If you don't want to die, then don't detransform. We won't necessarily be surprise attacked by our enemy, but until I decide that it's safe, I don't want any of you detransforming. If we are attacked, there won't be enough time for you to transform. You understand that a magical girl and a human's reaction speed is leagues apart, right?" It seems like Nanako-san is being blamed for doing whatever Mana says humans do, so Nanako-san just sank down further. "Let's not forget that we already have a body on our hands. Don't be reckless." When she said the word body, a heaviness came to Nanako-san's chest. Who's going to be the next victim? Nanako-san wasn't used to fighting. More than anyone here, is she going to be next? Just thinking about it made her shiver. Mana continued to glance at Malpam. "The barrier that the Foreign Affairs Division put up has a time limit of 24 hours. We won't be able to raise another after it drops. This means we have to catch the assassin within the time limit." Okay, so makes sense. The Foreign Affairs Division, what do they even think they could do? Nanako-san complained in her heart, but she didn't speak it out loud. "When we travel, we wear long coats, big hats, and scarves. Hide your costumes. If you have anything like surgical masks, you can cover up your face, too. We have an excuse. The seasonal flu is common nowadays, so it'll be as if we're trying to prevent sickness. If no one has anything like those, we'll buy some." Nanako-san understood why she'd have her coat taken off. If she'd transform while she was wearing the coat, she'd have to detransform first to get it again. "Okay. Since anything you wear disappears during the transformation, still, she had no hat or mask. She'd have to buy it. Will that be counted as part of her expenses? For now, she'll just put it on her tab. If we use this," Mana pointed at the wooden stick on top of the table. It was 30 centimeters in length with no decoratives on it. Okay, hold on. What page are we at now? We're at page 23, actually. Wow, how long have I been recording? Hang on. 55 minutes? Okay, I'll try. Hold on, we're at page 23. Let's see if there's a page or character, a scene or character break coming up soon. Oh crap, there is not. There's one at the end of page 26. Do I take the chance and push to 26? Or do I stop it here at 23 and read the next 13 later? Let's try to read a little bit farther. I'm gonna save this and then make a jump cut and then keep recording for the next few pages. Okay, we're back. Let's see how far we can make it. It's impossible to find our targets. That was a strange thing to say. This can only use primitive magic. All it can do is point to a direction. It won't know the exact place, but there was a professional who can use this primitive magic professionally, but they've been killed. On the screen were many famous idols singing a song while dancing. They were gathered in a large spherical arena. Since they were muted, no sound came out, and their happy movements looked eerie as a result. The lighting from the TV spilled out to the room, illuminating Mana's face in bright red. Her hair was shining. That's all. Any questions? Ripple raised her hand. Mana glanced at her. Yes. It seems Mana was a little annoyed with someone asking further questions. Did Ripple notice that? Either way, she began to talk. You said that someone's already died before. Does that mean you fought this assassin? One of us was killed during the retreat. We abandoned our van and ran away. That's all. So, hold on. There are 3 left alive, but one of us was killed during the retreat. Does that mean that... That can't mean that Rainbow or Posteree did it. We abandoned our van and ran away, that's all. That's all. Even though she said those words casually, her face was clearly filled with anger. Gently, she moved her eyes away. She looked scary. So, I don't think any of those 7 did it, which means that there's someone else out there doing this killing that they're going to get the rap for. And somebody killed them during the escape, which is weird and interesting. Because we never saw a 4th when we saw 2 exit the van and we saw the rabbit girl separately. And the 2 exiting the van you would assume would be Malpam and Mana, but maybe not. Maybe one of them was the Suzaku girl. Maybe she was the one that could use the stick. Because remember, there was the girl that used the stick was the one with the hat and everything. So maybe the Suzaku girl is already dead. That's interesting, but maybe we still have more to figure out. That's all, even though she said those words. But okay. Do you know any characteristics about our enemy? Mana breathed out a sigh. Alright, take notes on these. I want you to confirm it as well. A pirate, a stage magician, Arabian dancer, ribbon girl, postman, wedding dress. There was far more to them than Nanako-san thought. Why were there so many? Okay, so that's only 6, so they didn't count 1. Pirate, stage magician, Arabian dancer, ribbon girl, postman, wedding dress. Which is the one that they didn't count? Oh, they didn't count Rainbow. Okay. Interesting. So maybe Rainbow did kill one of them and she's lying. This is interesting. But these documents only list their appearance. That's because we only know their appearance, so I only wrote down what they look like. That's all we need to know. But, look, they fought us until we had to desperately retreat. One of us was killed in the process. I'm asking for assistance from other divisions. Isn't that enough for you? Nanako-san kept her eyes away. Even if she wasn't looking at her face directly, she didn't have to. It seems that Mana's anger is leaking out. It's the same feeling of how just looking at spicy food makes your tongue hot. She could hear Mana sighing. Only the sound of the karaoke commercial was playing. The sound of her breathing gradually increased. The sound of Mana slamming the desk was drowned out by the commercial. Listen here, smartass. Shit, I really have no time to explain this. We asked for help so we can gather up people who were experts at combat. That's why all of you are here. But I'm not good at fighting, shouted Nanako-san in her heart. We're in a situation that demands combat. Like it or not, you're going to fight them. Mana and Ripple stared at each other for a while, Mana's eyes looking like they could pierce your heart. Ripple looked like she was attentively analyzing Mana. Mana didn't deflect her gaze for a second. Ripple slowly closed her eyes. Understood. No, don't break, Ripple. Keep fighting, shouted Nanako-san inside her heart once more. Everyone grabbed their coats and prepared their scarves. Nanako-san hid her shame. Still, she did wear her coat. It was a coat she bought to wear in her human form. Its color was charcoal gray, far too plain for a magical girl. and its size was also too big. She wore her goggles as a voice interrupted her, buttoning up her coat. Also, I can't remember which design actually had goggles from the thing. I was thinking that there's a possibility that Suzaku Girl I thought had goggles on the hat. Maybe she is Nanako-san, but I don't think so. I doubt it. So I'm wondering which design had goggles. Don't bother, again, if you think, oh, I'll comment it and it'll help. Don't bother, because I can just go back and look at the character designs after I read, and I'm curious, so I'm going to. So I'll know after I read and I go look at the character designs. Or actually, you know what? Oh wait, never mind, I don't have Discord up. I was going to say I'll just look in Discord really quick at a message from Platt, but either way. So no. Okay, what's next? Understood, no, don't break Ripple, color scheme. She wore her goggles as a voice interrupted her, buttoning up her coat. This is going to go badly. It was Ripple. The scar on her face looked vividly painful. Was she going for a Scarface character design, or did she actually get that scar in a real fight? So much for our training, I guess. Yeah, thought Nanako-san. Data was displayed on her goggles. Name, height, weight. She slid over to the next page, career and hometown, family. She continued reading until she read something labeled today's plans. Sorry, my throat's really starting to hurt. That's where she's heard Ripple's name. Now she understood why she remembered. This was the reason Nanako-san came on her business trip here in the first place, to train a newcomer magical girl. There was a magical girl who wanted to work within the Land of Magic, but before she could do that, the Land of Magic wants to test her aptitude. So, Nanako-san was ordered to train her. Now she remembered. That newcomer magical girl's name was Ripple. Nanako-san clasped her palms together, feeling bad that she'd forgotten something important. Excuse me, I know it won't be soon, but maybe when all this is over, we can continue after the cleanup process. There's lots of death flags for Nanako-san, by the way. And when will that be? As early as possible, of course. The area I'm in charge of isn't far from here, so once everything's all cleared up, I can come back here as soon as possible. Ripple raised her eyebrow. Even though it was just a subtle movement, Nanako-san could tell Ripple was confused. You don't live here. Huh? Oh no, I don't live here. In fact, I came here because the magical girl in charge of this area is you, right, Ripple? No, I don't live here either. Huh? They looked at each other's faces. Usually Nanako-san is called toward the trainees' area of responsibility. She was supposed to watch them as they worked, listening to any rumors in the city, jumping in if it was necessary. That was closer to monitoring than actual training. Conversely, sometimes trainees went to Nanako-san's hometown. This was a lot more common. Usually these magical girls are the ones who haven't yet learned the basics and don't have areas assigned yet. So, this is making me think, were they both sent there on purpose for this basic survival game? They all are, in a way. So why was she sent here? She wondered as she tilted her neck. Just then she received a phone call. The name on the magical phone's display was Boss. Malpam, Hana, and Mana had already left. Nanako-san answered the phone. I'll be out in a bit, she told Ripple. This is Nanako-san. Seems you've managed to join up with them. She looked by on her magical phone suspiciously. How did her boss know she's here? I can't see anything, if you're wondering. I know you've met up with them because your goggles info gets transferred to me, remember? Oh right, about that. If you don't wear your goggles, nothing will be transmitted to me. If you did anything like putting your goggles on the karaoke table earlier, then I'll get nothing. Are you sure you can't see anything? Nanako-san casually looked at her magical phone. There's no need to be concerned with what they think. Even though your magical skill infringes their privacy, if they don't know, it's not a problem. Huh? Oh, there's something else I'd like you to keep in mind. Okay, and then I think I'm going to end it here because I don't know how much longer my battery's going to hold out. I'm really kind of pushing it, and this video is going to be kind of long. But either way, we made it to page 26, so I'll do the last, I guess technically 11 pages. Do the last 11 pages in a separate video in a couple days. So, either way, that's it. Thank you for well, let me discuss it for a second first, which is obvious. It sucks discussing it because my throat hurts. And I'll do some more discussion at the beginning of the next video like I did with part 2 of chapter 1. Parts of this were a little bit slow. I don't want to call it boring, because I like this kind of stuff. It really builds up the character and is important in its own way. So I like that we did this for Nanako-san and we focused on her the entire time. I like it, but at the same time it was a little bit slow at parts. I like the meeting with the other girls. Mana is a character I really, really like already. She just stands out to me a lot. Malpam is whatever. The rabbit girl, Hana, she's whatever. They're both cool. I really like Mana, though. So what I'm thinking is now we have the 5 that are part of the team sent there to take them out. And this whole thing could have been orchestrated because there's some questionability to why they were called to the city. So there's the 5 people in the team to catch them. The 7 being tricked into I don't think Rainbow did it, but they didn't list Rainbow in that thing. But I still don't think that she's one of the ones that did the murders. So, oh, and there was a 4th one that already died, but I don't know if that's going to be one of the 6 character designs. So, one has already died, but we have the 5 there. We have 7 more that were tricked by Toko, and that leaves us with another 4, including Pithy. So maybe those 4 are going to be the real bad guys? Maybe? And that would leave, by process of elimination, Pithy would have... Well, I don't 100% know right now what Nanako-san looks like, so it would just be too much speculation. But either way, I'm going to end this one. Like I said, I'll discuss more at the beginning of next video. But either way, I hope you enjoyed this one. Like if you did like it, comment down there. Tell me what you thought of this chapter, what you thought of my thoughts on it. Subscribe for more Magical Girl Raising Project, much more on the channel. Follow on Twitter if you want. I can try to keep you updated there and stuff with the channel. If you want a link to our Discord server to talk to me or more of us there, then just ask and I'll give you one. That's it. Thank you once again for watching, and I'll see you all next time.